Please go ahead, sir. We are live now.
Good morning and welcome everyone to another edition of webinars on a series of illness to wellness. Today we have a very interesting topic, and the topic is preventive and curative measures for bones and joint pain during winter and COVID. How can they be related to COVID? I would like to start this session with a shloka which we have all heard of. Asto ma sadgamaya, tamso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amritam gamaya, Om Shanti. So, O Lord, take us away from darkness, from all the ills to light. So, I would like to use this and mention it here because one of the oldest problems that humanity has faced, which literally all of us, howsoever healthy, have faced, must have experienced in life is pain. Actually, life starts with pain, and that is for everyone. So, pain is a very important and essential part of life. Somehow we term it, we experiences it as something which is unpleasant, which we do not wish to experience. But pain is a very important part of our life, and it is very important in sustenance of life. I always say to my patients that दर्द एक मन घड़ंत कहानी है. There is nothing like pain in the body. Pain is a perception. ये आपका एहसास है जो आपका दिमाग महसूस करता है. And this pain is always a signal from some part of the body that something is going wrong. So it is very important for us to understand the pain, and especially it takes a very important role because with age, with progressing age, the pains and aches become more and more, and they tell on other diseases, other conditions also, like people with diabetes, blood pressure, they're not able to exercise. So today we are very thankful to SOCHM, and we are very thankful that they have gathered a galaxy of stars who can give us the best guidance and best knowledge about pain. I would like to request our honored Shri Anil Rajput Chairman of the CSIR committee, to welcome them and start the program. Sir. So we can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're audible now, sir.
It's my proud privilege to welcome all the eminent personalities who have gathered here to share with us their experience. Today we are very fortunate to have Dr. Ved Chaturvedi, Senior Consultant with Sir Gangaram Hospital, Dr. P.D. Rath, Director and Head Department of Max Super Specialty, Dr. Maninder Shah Singh, Senior Consultant with Spinal Injury Center, Vasant Kunj, and our session moderator, Dr. Rajesh Kesriji, Founder and Director of Total Control. The objective of our session today is to generate awareness about better healthcare management, which is part of SOCHM's Illness to Wellness campaign. Especially, the session will focus on preventive and curative measures for bones and joint pains during winter and COVID-19. It is no surprise that the outbreak of COVID-19 has served as an important reminder for all of us to put health first. In India's environment, every health issue has a compounding effect on the health system, which is already stressed because of the pandemic. Bone and joint pains or rheumatoid arthritis has typically been perceived as a disease that affects only the elderly. Evidence shows, however, that this is now a common problem for many adults and that women tend to be more vulnerable than men. This means that the bone and joint pain affect a significant proportion of the working population, which hinders productivity for many. Experience shows that the effects of this disease can be traumatic and long-lasting. Those affected experience discomfort doing many day-to-day activities, often not even being able to walk or move freely. As a result of lacking exercise, affected population often develop a new or experience further impairment of existing health problems. For example, uncontrolled diabetes, hypertension, and excessive weight gain. In colder temperature, the body is already less active, with weaker blood circulation and increased possibilities of spasm in muscles, further worsening the underlying issues of arthritis. The emergence of COVID-19 has impacted orthopedic patients globally, and especially those in critical conditions. It is evident that the patients in advanced stage of arthritis, as in the case of many others with existing health conditions, are unable to or unwilling to seek timely care. Delays in seeking treatment can further aggravate the disease and even prolong recovery once treatment begins. In the session today, we will hear from experts on the underlying causes of bone and joint pains and ways in which these can be prevented and or better managed if they do emerge. We will hear from them about how to navigate this disease in the ongoing pandemic, particularly what home remedies work, but when it becomes important to seek medical support. I encourage you all to ask questions and share the key lessons that come out of this session with your respective networks of family and friends. In the light of ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, there is a need to sensitize people on the importance of timely, preventive and curative measures for bones and joint pains, especially during the winter, to avoid any further complications. I will not take much more time, as I'm sure you're all eager to listen to our expert panelists and their valuable advice on today's topic. With these words, I will now hand over to our session moderator, Dr. Rajesh Kesrichi, to take the session further. Jai Hind, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words and your introduction of the panelists and of our topic, our today's topic also. So I would once again welcome all the panelists, and I would request now Dr. P.D. Rath. He's the Director and Head of Department Rheumatology, Max Saket Healthcare in New Delhi, and he's a lot of fellowships and a lot of feathers in his cap. He's fellow rheumatology NIMS Hyderabad, fellow Royal College of Physicians Edinburgh, fellow Royal College of Physicians Glasgow. He's an examiner MRCP PACES, education and clinical supervisor, core medical training, Royal College of Physicians. And there's a long list of his achievements, his publication, more than 50 publications in national and international journals, including chapters. I would also like to welcome Dr. Lieutenant General Ved Chaturvedi. He's MD, DM, Professor Rheumatology and Immunology, Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi. He's DM, SGPGI, Lucknow, MD Medicine. He's the ex-president, Indian Rheumatology Association, ex-president, Delhi Rheumatology Association, ex-head of Department Rheumatology Research and Referral Hospital, New Delhi. And he's the ex-honorary physician to the President of India. He's the first rheumatologist in the country to use new therapy for arthritis called biologics since 2000, to establish MSK ultrasound and medical arthroscopy in 2003. He's been the past editor of Manual of Rheumatology and President Awardee. He's received PSMV highest peacetime award. Welcome, sir. Welcome again.
Thanks.
And also, we are very honored to have Dr. Maninder Shah Singh. He's a senior consultant, Chief Foot and Ankle Services, Indian Spinal Injury Center, Vasant Kunj. He's been the section editor. He is the section editor, Foot and Ankle, Indian Journal of Orthopedics, associate editor, Journal of Clinical Orthopedics and Trauma, guest editor, and guest editor, Foot and Ankle Annals of Joint. Welcome, Dr. Maninder ji. After having completed his MBBS and MS Ortho from prestigious Malhara Medical College, he achieved further experience in various centers in UK, including the prestigious Royal Orthopedic Hospital. Having worked in UK for approximately 10 years, he is now practicing as a senior orthopedic surgeon and deals with various kinds of sports injuries, foot and ankle surgery, joint replacements in the Indian Spinal Injury Center. So welcome again, welcome all the panelists. So now I would like to move on to Dr. P.D. Rath sir and request him to give a short presentation and enlighten us about pain and the myths and facts. Arthritis myths and facts is a topic he is going to enlighten us on. Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh, and good morning to all of you. I would like to thank ASSOCHAM for giving me this opportunity today. And I would also like to welcome my seniors and colleagues like Janet Chaturvedi and Dr. Maninder Singh. I'm going to basically briefly explain certain myths and facts because a lot of people have a lot of myths about arthritis. And I think that's the most important thing to understand. So the first thing is, what is arthritis? Is it a disease? Is it a bone problem? Is it a joint problem? Or is it something else? So a lot of times when you say arthritis, people don't understand what it is. So the first thing to understand is that it's a joint problem. And what is a joint? A joint is a space between two bones. So if you look at the hip, it's a space between two bones. You look at the hand joints, the foot joints, the knee. So it's a space between two bones. It's not really the bone, right? So this is one bone and this is another bone. And this is capped by something called as cartilage. And then you have this fluid which gives its viscoelastic property to the joint. And then you have the surrounding layers of capsules and ligaments. So the joint is a space between the two bones. That's the first and most important thing to understand. The other myth is that arthritis is a single disease which affects only elderly people. So the fact is that arthritis is a broad term. Just like we say fever, there are different types of fever. It could be because of TB, it could be because of cancer, it could be chikungunya, it could be COVID. Similarly, there are different types of arthritis, almost more than 100 types of arthritis. And arthritis are broadly divided into two categories, the simple or the green flag arthritis. And more importantly, what we rheumatologists deal with is the dangerous or red flag arthritis. And it's very important to differentiate between the two because they can look very similar. The simple green flag arthritis is commonly referred to as arthritis by people, mainly affects middle to age to elderly people, is a degenerative process and mainly affects the knees and sometimes can affect the hips or rarely the hands. In contrary, it is important to recognize this and differentiate this from a dangerous type of arthritis. So how do you recognize this simple arthritis? Well, the pain typically worsens on movement like climbing stairs. The pain improves with rest, and that is very important. It's not a life-threatening disease, and that's the key message. On the contrary, dangerous or red flag arthritis is less common, but very important to recognize and treat early. It can affect people of any age group. So young children to young adults. And when we get young children or young adults, they ask, Dr. Sahab, ye arthritis to budhape ki bimari hai, hame kyun ho gaya? So that is the first common myth. It can affect males and females equally. And some examples I'll show you. This is rheumatoid arthritis. This is again arthritis which affects young people, young females, young males, and it can be very deforming and damaging. Ankylosing spondylitis, it's a disease of the spine, affects young males, and they can cause severe damage and stooping of the posture. In this case, in elderly, but in even very young people, it can happen. Scleroderma, again a disease which can present as arthritis or joint pains and then can go on to involve the skin, tightening of the skin. Gangrenes of the digits and gradually resorption of the fingers, which can to a layman almost look like leprosy. And if you look at the x-ray, the fingers are completely gone. So these are the kind of arthritis that we deal with. Lupus, again a young disease, young females, they get rashes, hair fall, and it can affect their livers and kidneys and any organs. It can cause severe hair falls. And these are some of the patients with bad lupus. Lungs can get affected. They can have bleeding in the skin, something we call as vasculitis, gangrenes. And I just want to take you through this very quickly. So what is common to all of them, these dangerous arthritises? They can all present as joint pains, very simple joint pains which one tends to ignore. But what is important is to understand, and this is a myth, many people think that arthritis, oh, it's a mild disease, I can do with this and that. It's not a life-threatening disease. But the fact is that this dangerous group of arthritis can be life-threatening or organ-threatening. It can involve any organ, skin, lungs, kidneys, eyes, brain, you name it, and you have it. And without a prompt early diagnosis, it can damage organs very quickly and can cause death in young people. So how do you recognize this kind of arthritis and how you differentiate this from a simple arthritis? Early morning stiffness. So typically when you wake up, these joints get stiff in the mornings, and the stiffness is almost for half an hour, 1 hour. It will improve as the day progresses, unlike the old age arthritis, in which the pain will actually worsen with movement and improve with rest. But in the dangerous kind of arthritis, paradoxically, the pain will worsen after rest and will gradually improve as you move around. And what is more important is not that the joints will pain only, but you'll have other symptoms like fever, weight loss, skin involvement, appetite loss. All these things can happen. And this is a signal that you're dealing with a dangerous kind of arthritis and you must get it treated. Now, one of the biggest myths is that there is no cure for this arthritis. So the moment you talk to people about arthritis, they say, oh, Dr. Sahib, iska to koi cure hi nahi hai. And the fact is that there is no cure for diabetes, there is no cure for thyroid, there's no cure for blood pressure, but nobody talks about that because the correct question is not that there is no cure, but there are treatments. So they are all treatable, and arthritis today is as treatable as diabetes or thyroid. So that is important. The correct answer is that they are treatable diseases. So who are rheumatologists? And I'm very glad that we have Jenny Chaturvedi here because I was feeling alone in the morning. So it's very important to understand who are rheumatologists. Rheumatologists are firefighters. We are firefighters, right? And where is the fire? Now, if you see, this is an ultrasound image. And this is the image of a joint of the hand, okay? And what you see inside, all this is fire. This is inflammation in the joints. So what rheumatologists do, we treat this fire. We are a group of highly specialized doctors who diagnose and treat this dangerous kind of arthritis. We douse the fire and prevent the damage. But please remember that joints that are severely damaged and have to be replaced are replaced by orthopedic surgeons. So the difference between a rheumatologist and a surgeon is like between a neurologist and a neurosurgeon, or a cardiologist and a cardiothoracic surgeon. The other important myth is that arthritis can be diagnosed by a single test. Please remember that there is no single test to diagnose arthritis because there are various kinds of arthritis. Some will have tests, some will not have tests. So most important way of diagnosing arthritis is clinical history and examination. That is very important. The other myth is that arthritis can be managed at home with painkillers and home remedies. The fact is, don't manage arthritis on your own with painkillers. Painkillers can provide temporary relief. They will not address the underlying disease. And sometimes in cases of dangerous arthritis, that can be life-threatening. So it's very important to consult a rheumatologist. The other myth is that we can and we should stop medications on our own as these are dangerous drugs. And I always tell my patient, no drug is dangerous as long as it is taken under supervision of a doctor. That is, even paracetamol can be a very dangerous drug if not taken without proper monitoring. And with proper monitoring, there is no dangerous drug. So neither discontinue nor continue any medication on your own without the routine follow-up of your doctor. And the final myth is that arthritis is caused due to diet and we can be treated by diet alone. And the fact is that arthritis is a multifactorial disease. There are multiple factors. Diet plays an important role, but a small role. However, a healthy lifestyle with a good exercise and balanced diet is an essential part. There is no doubt, but that is not the only part. Eating a lot of fresh fruits, green vegetables, and fruits and foods rich in omega-3 like flax seeds and fish have been found to be beneficial. And I will end my talk with that and say thank you to all of you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. And you've enlightened us and all our audience a lot. This is really a very important issue that everyone should be aware of about the red flag arthritis, about the rheumatoid arthritis, and the consequences and sequelae that can happen if not properly managed. Thank you so much. So there would be a lot of questions about these and other issues which should be coming to you, but I think we will come to the questions after the next presentation, that is by Dr. V. Chaturvedi sir. Would you like to give your presentation, sir?
Yeah, I have opened, but how to share, because it's not showing the sharing screen.
Technical team, please give sharing rights to sir.
Yeah, probably they have not.
He'll give you sharing rights, then you can share, sir.
Sir, right now you are the presenter. Yes, we can see your slides, sir. Please make it in full screen.
Okay, just a minute. How to?
F5. Sir.
Can you see it? But
Yeah.
I can't see it now. Just a minute, because.
Try to press F5, sir.
Say again.
F5.
F5.
Yes. Function.
That
5.
is for what?
That would play the presentation.
F5. Okay. Is it?
Function button, sir.
Yeah, function button F5.
It usually does in my laptop, maybe.
Try
If someone
play button. I think maybe that will show the slideshow. So just press the play button.
Play.
Play,
Yes,
play,
yes.
play. Top right corner there.
Stop show.
No. On the top right, there's a green button which says play. Yeah, just right. No, not
Below
on the
this.
top. Just below, just above your presentation. Yeah, yes, there.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just take 10 minutes. Just to recapitulate. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Can
I
you
was
hear me?
working in this army hospital, and now I'm working in this Gangaram hospital. And this how I was basically covering most of the country, because that is how it is. A lot of research was done in cardiology. Unfortunately, last 20 years has witnessed research in rheumatology. And idea is mobility. Mobility is and I call it painful paralysis. So that is the important. Earlier it was treated like this. It's a painful condition. What a misery, lifelong pain. And that is the goal. They may not die. I always tell people they vanish from society. This has been discussed. Scope, lot of joint diseases, some muscle diseases. That is what is rheumatology, and body framework diseases. And what is a body framework? Joint, rough explained to it, some soft tissue, some muscles, and some blood vessels. So immune inflammation of all this is rheumatology, whether joint, muscles, or blood vessels. This has been discussed. This has been also discussed. And what causes arthritis is probably the immune system malfunctioning. This was, it is like neurology. Sometime problem is in the cartilage, which we call as osteoarthritis. Sometime the problem is in it's like a football bladder. You have something called synovium, which is called rheumatoid arthritis. So there are many types of arthritis. And if there's a swelling, we call it arthritis. If there is no swelling, we call it arthralgia. And red flag and arthritis, he explained to you. That is what is a red flag arthritis. Basically, जो भी बीमारी आर्थराइटिस है, यदि आपको आराम करने पे ज्यादा होती है और यंग एज में जनरली होगी. So we always, I wrote an article in India today long back, arthritis, a dangerous arthritis or red flag arthritis. वो कौन सी arthritis है? If you take rest and your problem become worst, but if you move around, you become better. So that is a red flag arthritis, because they all look similar. So you must remember the first question we ask patient, भाई तुम जब आराम करते हो तुम्हारा बढ़ जाता है क्या? हाँ साहब, when I take rest, रात में मेरा बढ़ जाता है. So that is a red flag arthritis. कभी it can be one joint, it can be multiple joints, it can be acute like gout. Suddenly आप बिल्कुल ठीक हैं, एकदम से हो गया. That is called acute arthritis, and this is called as chronic arthritis. Complication, we know about complication. पहले इसको कॉम्प्लिकेशन बोलते हैं. इन कॉम्प्लिकेशन होने से हम अपने सर्जन्स की मदद लेते हैं. So let's not do this complication. That is how it is. And I can tell you if you ask a person if he has arthritis, he has all these issues. He can't sit in Indian toilet. A lady hai, she can't make the hairs. She can't make tie up the saris. She can't even eat chapati, and it can lead to a lot of issues like divorce and so many issues. So a lot of functional issues can happen. And when the total joint fail, it's called total joint failure. And there are many mimics of arthritis. Every joint pain is not a arthritis. कई और बीमारियां हैं जिनको कि जैसे suppose you are depressed, then you have a lot of joint pain. Suppose so many other, so you need a doctor to do that. एक arthritis में सिर्फ जोड़ों का issue नहीं है. It can involve, if your joint is involved, same soft tissue as same cement is there in the eye. So eye is also inflamed. So eye can be involved. So your rheumatologist is a doctor who not only see the joint, he will see your eyes, brain, and so many other things, lungs. So it can involve heart. So big four of rheumatology हम लोग देखते क्या है basically. एक तो हम देखते हैं dangerous arthritis, which Rath was talking about. हम देखते हैं osteoarthritis, backache, and soft tissue rheumatism. I generally divide arthritis like this, much simpler. यदि कोई लेडी मेरे पास आती है, young lady, और if she has a red flag arthritis, means एक arthritis है, or if it becomes worse after the rest, I sometimes feel probably she has a rheumatoid arthritis. Now, rheumatoid arthritis is one arthritis. If a male comes to me, I always feel he had, जैसे my previous speaker Rath was telling, that there are 100 types of arthritis. So this is rheumatoid arthritis. If a male comes with arthritis, generally backache and knee joint, I always feel it is a spinal arthritis, or we call it spondyloarthropathy. If an old person come, which is probably the degenerative, जैसे बाल सफेद हो रहे हैं, पैर भी सफेद हो रहा है, so it is osteoarthritis. And of course, children can also get arthritis. So arthritis age-wise is easier to diagnose. That is how I feel about this thing. This is osteoarthritis. Our ex-prime minister had. This is how it presents. Generally, आपके घर में कोई वृद्ध होगा, or he has these types of aches and pains, and this is called as degenerative disease. And this is called arthritis of. This is a normal joint, and this normal joint has a spring or a cartilage. It gradually becomes, it's like your hairs are becoming white. So this is how it becomes. So that I'll skip. So that gradually becomes worse. So that has a lot of research is going on. And if it becomes worse, then needs a joint replacement. And this is the arthritis of young female, rheumatoid arthritis. That is how. And that is the arthritis of young males, because they have pain here, and this pain is worse in the night, and they can have a arthritis of many other. I call it spinal arthritis. And ultimately, if it is not treated, gradually spine arthritis becomes like this. So that is how that I'll skip this. Another arthritis, any other problem, we deal with the osteoporosis. Osteoporosis means your bones become fragile, more fragile, because it has less calcium. So normal bone is like this, and you become like this. So that is another thing which we deal with it. It can lead to fractures because it is an osteoporosis. Another thing is we deal with the gout. Gout is an acute illness, suddenly acute arthritis. And what causes gout, we all know about overindulgence. We say rich man's disease. So you are taking a lot of calorie. And children do get arthritis, as we discuss about. I think I'm just coming in the last few slides. And we also deal with the soft tissue issues. So soft tissue is a connective tissue. Connective tissue is like a cement. So they also get inflamed, and so they are called as connective tissue. Diagnosis of these diseases is now like a diabetes is diagnosed by blood sugar, and malaria is diagnosed by malaria parasite. Unfortunately, we don't have a single test for arthritis. That's why you require, and there is no gold standard for test for diagnosis of any disease. You require a rheumatologist, and some tests are required. Our main motto is early diagnosis, and main motto is the prevention of joint disease, and there should be a social group. So treatment of arthritis, earlier we didn't have treatment. Today research has been done in the painkiller and the many other this thing, probably many other drugs have come. So this can be, see the steroid and joint injections and many other. I think I'll skip all this thing, probably it was made for some other purposes. So I think I have finished. I'll just come to the last slide. So we have climbed few stairs. You must know, like any other science, like cardiology developed from chest pain to the angiography to the angioplasty. Same thing is happening in rheumatology. To diagnose it very early, as Rath was showing that slide, at a stage when even the swelling is not there. So you do ultrasound, see what is happening inside the joint. That is number one. I still remember when I started doing ultrasound in army hospital, people, my own colleague used to call me because it was not very well described. So we were the first to start, and now see how other people are doing, and I feel so happy. So we have climbed few stairs, but probably there are many other issues are there. I think I have mixed up the slides. Yeah, I wanted to show the last slide. This was the, I think I have missed that. Sorry. So basically, we have climbed few stairs, but what I wanted to show, this is just the beginning of the story. A day will come where, like cardiology, we'll have we'll have we have a research where it can be diagnosed at a preclinical stage. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ved Chaturvedi ji. Thank you so much for enlightening us. That was really a very interesting talk. Now we've talked about the problem. The problem is amply clear with these two presentations about the arthritis, about red flag arthritis, about the pains, about the symptoms. But everyone is very keen to understand, can these things be prevented? What can be important ways and means, like Dr. Rath had already mentioned about omega-3 fatty acid rich diet. Are there any other ways of preventing arthritis? All types of arthritis, some may be preventable to some extent. What can be done about that? Sir.
Dr. Rajesh, you see, as Sir General Chaturvedi was saying, it's very important to understand that these diseases are multifactorial, right? So I always talk to my patients that it's like a seed. A seed is in the ground, but that seed to grow into a plant needs a lot of factors like water, sunlight. So these autoimmune diseases, they have a genetic basis. That means a certain individual has a certain group of genes which makes him predisposed to this disease. That gene is the seed. You need that seed that is there in certain individuals, not present in other individuals. But the seed is not enough to grow into a plant. There are certain environmental factors. They are multifactorial, but we know some of them. One, of course, is stress. Stress is a very, very important trigger today for any autoimmune disease to come out. Infections. And we are seeing in the times of COVID that COVID itself can trigger off many immune-mediated reactions in the body. Then is smoking, which can be a big factor in certain diseases, like General Chaturvedi was saying about ankylosing spondylitis. And he has pioneered some very good work on that. So there are multifactorials. Diet again plays a role, but please understand there is no one single factor which by itself will prevent. So what we should do, yes, lead a healthy lifestyle, try to take less stress, eat a balanced diet, but infections are certain things which are not in our hand. So I think it's important to understand that we can do certain things, but then certain things are not in our hands. But the most important thing is that when we suffer from an autoimmune disease, is not to run away from it, is to face it.
That's true.
Just like we face diabetes, like we face hypertension, we can face it, we can treat it. And believe me, today, with the kind of treatment that we have, it's as treatable as your blood pressure or thyroid or diabetes. Nothing. And no greater time today to be in this country that we have drugs at a cost which you cannot imagine. They are so cheap today in this country that I think this is the best time to be. So be confident. Don't be afraid of these diseases. That's what I would say.
Very, very, very well said, actually. You must remember what is a science. I'll tell you how science has evolved. Earlier, when people used to fall sick, whether it's arthritis or fever, people used to feel the way कि भगवान नाराज हो गए. So let's go to the God. Gradually came, no, it is probably the Indian used to think because of Vat Pitta theory, and Chinese used to think it is because of energy imbalance, and Unani used to think it is because of the metals. Over that only the present science has developed. We may absolutely may not be correct, but we know there are many types of arthritis. One is because of infection. So it's a very well worked up infective arthritis. We know arthritis can be because of tuberculosis. So that's a different set of arthritis. That's why you need a rheumatologist. Is it because of the tuberculosis? Is it because of reactive arthritis? Lot of infection in throat. You have a throat pain and you have arthritis. That arthritis is different. You have a urinary infection and you have arthritis. That is an infective arthritis. You have a diarrhea and you have arthritis. So all this is combined is called as reactive arthritis. Then you have a tuberculosis somewhere else and arthritis somewhere else. We call it Ponson's arthritis. So what I mean, there is infective arthritis. There is genetic, like ankylosing spondylitis. Earlier we say this is a HLA-B27. Lot of non-medicals also comes. They talk about HLA-B27. So they know it's a gene genetically. So you have a gene, you have an infection, you have some other unknown factors. So we only know autoimmunity. Look, the immune system is like a steering wheel. It becomes like this. The moment you become like this, you have arthritis. If it becomes very bad, then you get cancer. So what all drugs, these modern drugs do, they correct the immune system and your arthritis become better. You know, that was the biggest discovery of in rheumatology, that there is nothing wrong in the joint. Joints are, by the way, involved. It is the immune system which has become like this. So all drugs are acting on the immune system, which even as a doctor we never used to swallow, but gradually last 20-30 years has witnessed, if you correct the immune system, your arthritis become better. But what is the type of arthritis? Whether you really need these drugs, sometimes they're overdiagnosed. Sometimes people feel there are 5-6 drugs. वो जैसे कहते हैं ना, हनुमान जी का पर्वत के सब दवाइयां दे दो. But I always feel if your own kith and kin is involved, you will not do that. You will go to a correct doctor. So the one message is just go to a correct doctor. Whosoever you feel if my brother is unwell with this arthritis, whom I should go. So today you have a specialty called rheumatology. If the joint has become total bad, then don't hold on. Catch your colleague in orthopedic and ask him, look, this joint has become totally bad. It cannot be regenerated by any drug. So it needs a joint replacement. That is what we take help of our colleagues from orthopedic surgery.
So here, in fact, I would like to involve and request Dr. Maninder Shah Singh ji, let's not go that far away so that our patients and our audience needs a joint replacement. Sir, would you please enlighten us about, because after all, we understand that the osteoarthritis or the degenerative arthritis is far more common than the inflammatory or autoimmune related arthritis. So that is a very large number of literally most of the people start getting some degenerations even at very early age, 30, 40 age. So please enlighten us how to prevent those arthritis. What are those and how to prevent them? What can be done? I understand that it's something you should share with us.
So thank you, Rajesh. I think you brought in a pertinent point about what. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, you're audible, please.
So basically, sorry, I don't want you to play the videos yet. So please stop that. Okay. So first of all, thank you for involving me in this discussion. I think Dr. Ved Chaturvedi and Dr. P.D. Rath have given excellent presentations on what we need to do, how to identify the type of arthritis, and that we need to intervene early, that we need to treat these early to get best results. But I think equally important, as they mentioned, is prevention. And as you mentioned, Dr. Rajesh, as well, is that prevention is the key really to avoid needing extended medicines or surgery for these conditions. And how do we actually go about, how about a lay person go about preventing this arthritis from happening in the first place? We know that arthritis now, the degenerative kind of arthritis is happening earlier than what is happening. It is most, although than it was 50 years ago. 50 years ago, the arthritis was happening at the same age group in degenerative arthritis, but it was not symptomatic. Now, even at 30, 40 years of age, we are seeing patients who have degenerative arthritis, and they are not, they're not sportsmen, they're just sedentary people, and they start getting arthritis early on. So the main key factor which has been found to prevent arthritis is that, and stop our cartilage. The cartilage is our surface of the bone in the joint, which degenerates gradually and thins out. And that is what we call as arthritis, as Dr. Ved Chatur showed in his slides. When the cartilage goes down, the depth of the cartilage goes down, the arthritis sets in and it exposes the nerve endings, the patient starts getting pain. The cartilage doesn't have any nerve endings. So as long as the cartilage is there, you don't get pain from the arthritis. So usually the painful part in the degenerative arthritis starts occurring a bit later after the cartilage is already damaged. But how do you prevent this damage? So the main thing which has been shown is activity. Okay, so activity is the main activity. If you see the cartilage of weightlifters, you would expect that they are going up and down whole day, on doing squats. How their cartilage should wear out very, very quickly. That's what we think, isn't it? But studies have shown that their cartilage actually grows to 3 times the depth of a normal person. So they actually get increased depth of cartilage by doing those exercises. So even the cartilage can increase in the depth, or the height of the cartilage in the joint can increase with activity, and that is possible. It has been shown. So activity actually helps you regenerate, not completely regenerate a damaged cartilage, but to actually prevent any damage to the cartilage by healing that cartilage by activity. And that is what I would like to completely, showcase here, is that we don't need to go in for surgery. We'll talk about later when we need actually surgery to be done, and that's another topic. But I think the first thing is prevention. As Dr. Dutt said, the diet as well. So, anything to increase our immunity will help. Antioxidant diet, calcium-rich diet will help our body to, withstand the degenerative process and to reduce the degenerative process, plus activity. I think these are the 2 key main things that any person can actually do. I say, if you do half an hour of exercise a day, how much is half an hour? If you think time according to the whole day, it is 2% of the whole day is half an hour exercise. And if we can't take out 2% of our day for our body, then we just have one body which we live in the whole of our life. And if we can't take care of that one body and give 2% or even 3% of the time of the whole day for our body, for exercise or for diet, taking a good diet, proper diet, then we are misusing the rest of the 96% of the time. We are misusing it. We are not using it at all. So I think that's an important key factor which everybody needs to understand, is the prevention requires only 5% of your time in a day. It doesn't require more than that. And 5% is 1 hour. So if we can take out 5% or even 2% of the time in a day, I think that thing was be. So if I, Dr. Rajesh, do we have time to play the video to show the exercises?
Yes,
or,
yes, please. No, it is very important. We would like all our viewers to see the video and to understand which and how to do and which exercise would be beneficial for them. Please, sir.
Okay. So I've asked one of my physiotherapists to make this video for me yesterday, and she actually obliged me very well. So I would like to, it's just a 7-minute video, and I'd like to, this is just 3 or 4 exercises for the whole different parts of the body. And if you can just start with these exercises in a day, I think you will find that, overall mental well-being, physical well-being both improve, as we know, with exercise. So basic exercise, I'm pretty sure with the COVID-19 now, everybody's geared up with more exercise. A lot of people are cycling now, running on the roads. I've never seen so many cycles on the road before. So, and I've started cycling as well. So it's made a change in all of our lives, COVID. And I think that change should always be for the better. We should not become sedentary. We should not take COVID. We should not let COVID win over us. We have to win over COVID. And the only way to do that is outside the house, not inside the house. We can win over COVID outside because the risk of COVID is least when we are outside in the open.
Exactly.
And
Very true.
so we can do that only outside when we are outside. So that's what we want you to do. Here, only the exercise which you can do at home, I'm demonstrating. So if you can play the video, please. So we start off with some core exercises. So these are the mainstay. If core is basically the hip, the pelvis, the back, and the neck and the shoulders. That's our core exercises. So we start off with scissors exercises, and these are called as planks. If you learn planks, if you just do planks exercises like these hand to elbow plank, these are not difficult to do, but you cannot, initially you cannot do it for a long time. So you start off very slow. All the back exercises have to be started off very, very slowly, and then you progress as you go along. So this is one of the difficult ones. So you don't need to do this from the day one. This is one of the difficult ones, but you start off with the plank, okay? And then you gradually progress with other scissoring exercises. Now we come to the leg exercises. So if you notice here, the leg is slightly turned outwards, externally rotated, as we said. If you keep it straight, there's more stress on the knee. So you have to keep it 20 degrees out, and then you bend down. It never should be a full squat. It is always a half squat up to 90 degrees. If you go full squat, there is chances of damaging the meniscus in the knee. So you should never do a full squat, especially in the initial 6 months of your exercise regime. You should only do half squats, and this is called a sumo squat. So again, the legs are turned outwards, and that helps the knee balance itself. And next is, again, this is a hip thrust, which exercises both the leg, the knee, and the back at the same time. Now side to side lunges, and then you jump at the same time. So you side jump lunge. If you just do this, I think majority of us do these exercises, these kind of exercises anyway, and these are very important. Majority of the stretching exercises have to be done at the end once we warmed up. So we should not do stretching exercises. We should do warm-up exercises at the start, then strengthening exercises, and then the stretching at the end. So this is the upper body exercises. Upper body, you should get a dumbbell to help you, because upper body, otherwise we can't take any other weight. We cannot lift any other weight, or you have a heavy bag with you and you can lift that up. But dumbbells help you exercise much easier. So even if you have a 2 kg dumbbell, which is very easy, here she's holding basically very light dumbbells. Okay, so I think it's just water bottles maybe, but it's sort of, you can use whatever you have to actually exercise, and these are just simple ones. Again, I have to tell you that when you do sideways movement of the arm, it should never be 90 degrees to the side. It should always be slightly oblique to the front when you lift up the arm, and that will help protect the rotator cuff muscles. So again, this is lifting up a heavy bag, and you can push up towards your body, and that basically any exercise is a combination of the upper body, lower body, as well as the core exercises. So again, demonstrating, this is exercising both the hip, the hands, as well as the core. So this exercise, if you do, it's very simple to do, and hand plank rotation. This is one of the, I think, very good exercises for you to do these and practice these at home. Again, just simple warm-ups, warm with push-ups. So you can just move forwards, do a push-up. You don't actually need to do the push-up. Even if you do hold it in that position in the form of a plank, that is good enough. You don't need to actually, unless you are up to it, you do not start with push-ups. Okay, you always start gently, and then you go more and more strengthening as you feel more comfortable. So exercises always have to be after you feel more comfortable. Now these exercises which are being shown are the last ones. These are the stretching exercises. These have to be done at the end of the session. You never do the stretching exercises such as yoga at the start of the session. These stretching exercises always have to be done at the end. Otherwise, a cold muscle can, if you stretch it, it can cause a tear or a pull in the muscle, a muscle sprain. So all these stretching exercises which have been shown at the end, when last 5 minutes of your session of exercise, you should do these stretching exercises. So and basically all these are easy to do, and anybody can do these exercises at home as demonstrated. It's just sitting in the balcony, and you can use different props to actually do these exercises, and it's not difficult to do. So anybody, even at home, who's not, even the person who's housebound, cannot go out, can do these kind of exercises, and start doing them. As you get more and more agile, you will be able to do more difficult exercises. But these are the ones you should start off with, and gradually you can, these are the different type of stretches at the end you can do to stretch out the back muscles, the groin muscles, and the knee as well. So that is the main thing. I think we do this stretching at the end. And so if you see here, this is again a sort of different types of planks, and then you do rotation of the hip and knee. Now, I would not advise these for people who have problems or arthritis in the knee as such, okay? So when you have arthritis, you have to keep your knee and hip in the straight position. You should not twist it. When twisting causes more problems. So these twisting movements are to be more done at the, once you're very, very comfortable with doing these simple movements. Okay, so I think this exercise, this one, I think if you can do this, this is very, very easy to do and very, very helpful. So any different variations of the plank exercises all your body. And this is the first exercise you can start off with, is hip switches. Okay, whenever you start doing back exercises, this is the first exercise you can start doing, and you can gradually go up this. So I think we can stop the video here. I think majority of the exercises have been covered.
Thank you so much,
Very
Dr.
well.
Maninder.
Excellent. Good one.
Thank you so much. That was really very interesting and very informative.
I think Maninder, I have to come one day to learn these exercises from you.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, sir. In continuation of this video and this discussion, I would like to throw open a question to the panel. These exercises are really very good, but I feel that sometimes there might be a steep learning curve involved with these exercises, and I think you also need a proper trainer guidance to do all these exercises. These are really very good as a complex, but usually, like when I treat my patients, diabetes patients, I tell them to do the simplest of exercise, and that I think is walk, because walking literally involves a whole of the body and all the muscles of the body. But sometimes our orthopedic colleagues say that many people are interested in jogging also, they wish to run. So does jogging cause some cartilage damage? What do you advise, the simplest exercise that I and you and every doctor can advise and everyone can follow, walking, jogging, or something, some such thing? What is the opinion of the panel, sir?
So can I take this first?
Yes, sir.
So yes, absolutely right, Dr. Rajesh. I think you've hit the ball on the exact point. So basically, jogging is not for everybody, especially somebody with arthritis already there. Should not start with jogging. Okay, he should start with walking. Especially, we suggest walking. If the walking is already difficult, then you can start on a treadmill where the impact is less, or you can wear very good quality shoes so that the impact on the knee and the hip is less. But definitely walking is the safest exercise for you to do. If you're comfortable walking with fast walking, definitely you can go on to jogging next. So, but first you should be comfortable doing at least, the basic fast walking, because you can cause injury if you just start jogging straight away. And we see a lot of those patients coming back to us with stress fractures, and other people I've seen after the pandemic, lots of people who started running, they don't walk, they just start running. And after 3-4 days, they come up with a bit of stress fractures in the tibia. And that's very, very common, especially these patients are being vitamin D deficient. They are more prone to these problems. So they get stress fractures in the tibia, even in the foot. And that is one thing which we have seen more so after the pandemic, really. People have been trying to get out. So walking first and then progress. That's what I would suggest.
Sir, I would like to, yes, please.
I would like to add something to that. I take a slightly different view on that. You see, if you look at human beings or evolution, the way it happened, we came from water to land. Okay, and once we have come on land and once we do these gravity activities, that takes its toll on the joints. So my take always is, when you look at athletes, when you look at the sports people, you'll find that the athletes, the gymnasts end up with the maximum damage. But the sports people who are the most healthiest are cyclists and swimmers. So I always tell my patients that cycling is perhaps one of the best ways of exercising, especially for arthritis people, because you're not putting a direct weight on the joints. At the same time, you're strengthening your hip, your thigh muscles, and you can lose your weight as well. And swimming or aquatic exercises, but of course I know there's a limitation to swimming, or don't have an access to a pool, but aquatic exercises are fantastic because you're doing them against a constant resistance, so that makes it more isometric. So I believe cycling is a very, very underrated but a very good thing, and you can nowadays have these static cyclings which can be very, very effective, so that's important. It's important to understand that when you're walking on a treadmill, it's good for a cardio, may not be very good for a person with a joint pain because you're always hitting on a hard surface. When you look at the track events, they're always on mud, they're never on a hard track. So it's very important to do your walking also on soft ground, always. Nothing like a natural walk or a park.
I must add, Rath, here that exercises for a normal person is a different ball game. Exercises for an arthritis person is a different ball game. That people probably forget, and they mix up because they don't understand about the disease. If somebody has a arthritis, a lot of people ask me, Doctor Saab, I have a arthritis. Should I do exercises? So those are special areas. Those special areas has to be advised by special people, maybe by physiotherapists, maybe by sports medicine people, maybe by rheumatologists, because we know what is involved, what should be avoided. If you have an inflamed joint, and if you are doing I still remember, can you imagine a very high bureaucrat of defense ministry, he goes to a hospital and he's diagnosed as arthritis, and he comes to me. I was very young, I was young like Rath that time. So I asked him one question only. I said, are you diabetic? You are a diabetic, that's why I'm putting this. So he said, yes, I'm diabetic, but they never asked me. I said, this is called as diabetic chiroarthropathy. This is a different disease. It will not go with these drugs. This is not rheumatoid arthritis. This is a hand joint which is immobile. It goes with a lot of exercise if you do, because of diabetes, all this collagen becomes hard. So you need exercise. This is not a rheumatoid arthritis. So probably a different disease requires a different prescription of exercises.
Yeah, I think what we are all trying to is that not one size fits everybody. So everybody has to, meet your orthopedician, your rheumatologist, your physiotherapist, and then, plan out a particular exercise plan according to your kind of arthritis.
So this brings us to a two-edged sword. Like I and most of the physicians and most of the people who are listening, we have been listening since ages that exercise is good, you do exercise, you prevent literally most of the diseases that are happening. Most of the diseases that are occurring and most of the mortality that is occurring is in majority due to lifestyle disease like obesity and all other diseases which are coming out of obesity, that is again diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease. So we do need to prescribe and we do need to advise our patients in majority, in order to stay healthy, do exercise. So I think some light has already been thrown on that. But I would like to ask two questions there. One is that because we advise our patients to do exercise, and for hypertensives and diabetics, majority of them are already elderly, majority of them are already having some joint pains, some problems, so their mobility is limited. One, what type of exercises would you suggest or not? The other question which is very pertinent is that who should not exercise? So anyone would like to throw
basically, look, if your joint is totally damaged, then probably exercise become a little difficult. So you should types of joint, how much damage is there? If you have a class 4 osteoarthritis, probably maybe cycling has emerged, swimming has emerged, as Rath was telling. These two exercises definitely emerge, which does not cause much harm. But if you have an inflamed arthritis, if you have inflammation, there's a fluid in the joint, probably that exercise will harm the joint itself. So that is what I feel depends on what, for a normal person, age wise, if you are a healthy person, you can run marathon. That's a different issue. And the type of experience, how much you will started. Suppose I'm 60 and I started today only, so I can't do it immediately everything. So probably it takes time to learn. Once you have learned, and probably the more endurance will come. So that is what I feel, what type of exercises will decide. exactly by a healthy person, by a diseased person. I think Maninder wants to say something. He's more expert in that.
No, not absolutely, sir. You are much more experienced, and I would honor your words. What you said, I think you absolutely said, that if you have an inflamed joint, exercise can sometimes increase the inflammation, and it's likely to increase the inflammation. It's important to control the inflammation first and then do the exercise. I think that's what you were saying, sir. But for if you say for osteoarthritis, you would, it's been shown very categorically that even if you have like the advanced stage of arthritis, whether your joint is, mobile, not mobile, exercise still helps, because what it happens is you may not exercise the diseased joint. As Dr. Rath said, you can do cycling, you can do upper body exercises. That helps your heart, that helps your muscle keep going. And again, the pain in the joint from those things can also improve, because your mental well-being and other receptors are off. Your diabetes gets better, your blood pressure gets better. So exercise is still to be done. We may modify the exercise according to the patient's requirements and what he's able to do, what he's not able to do. But I can tell you that many bed-bound patients can actually get up and stand, given the proper motivation and given the proper support with the physiotherapist and the occupational therapist, with different things supporting them at home, like to pull bars to lift up themselves up from the bed, and other things which you can adjust at the home place. They can have a much better lifestyle if they get support. These are the arthritic patients. They need not be bedbound as such. So I think and eventually surgery as well. We should not be delaying surgery till they are actually housebound or bedbound. We should be doing it earlier.
And Maninder, very important point is the joint is not the bone. That is what we are discussing. Muscle is an important part of the joint. If you do muscle exercises, really like quadriceps exercises, we always keep telling about osteoarthritis. Okay, you do the quadriceps exercises in a different way. The quadriceps are the muscles which are in the thigh. So if you do the thigh muscle exercise in a different way, and I can tell you it stabilizes the knee joint like anything. So that's why it is very, very important. It is proved scientifically that if you do a quadriceps exercises, your osteoarthritis pain is less.
Very true, sir. Actually, even in patients who are going to go for replacement, it's very important to strengthen your quadriceps, because that is what is going to make you successful.
Thank you, sir. One question which is coming up to my mind, and there's a question from the audience also about the lifestyle. Again, I'd come back to the obesity and the lifestyle disease that we are facing. Do you see and do you feel that the lifestyle diseases and obesity is playing a major role in aggravating the joint pains, the disease related to joint and bones? If we
Rath,
tackle
you start.
obesity,
Obesity
sure.
definitely a problem in our society, because there is always this tendency, and that is why diabetes is also very high. The eating habits are very different, and we have a tendency of if you don't gain weight, then everybody around you tells you that you look emaciated. Those kind of things are there. But I think what is also important in today's life, what I'm seeing in my patients and what we see as rheumatologists, is stress is a very, very important trigger. Believe me, there is no important trigger more important than stress in life. And I know that the stress has increased with times, with the current lifestyles, but I think we need to learn to how to handle it. How to cope with stress is very, very important. So mental health is very important first, and then of course physical health is again very, very important. So lifestyle changes have to happen, dietary changes have to happen. As both my other speakers have been talking about, exercises are very, very important. So there's no two ways about it.
Very important, Rath. Your whole lifestyle does not mean only the obesity. So happiness is a very, very important thing. And more, in fact, today, if I remember correctly, Rath, there's a seminar by Bangalore people on the psychoneuroimmunology. I think Chandrasekhar is organizing. So more and more work is going on this upper story, and which Indian knew very well that from the beginning. So we must learn whatever. Look, you can't have the situation will never be ideal. If you feel no, so you have to learn to be happy for whatever you have with you. So happiness, and of course the lifestyle.
In fact,
look, gout is one disease which we have invariably seen. I still remember there was very big VIP came to me. He was a communist. I was in army hospital. So my boss brought him, and I was young. So I told, sir, it's a rich man's disease, it's a gout. He said, I'm not a rich man. I'm a communist. I said, I don't mean that. The communists cannot become rich. So what I mean, if you require, say, 2,000 calorie, like all of us sedentary workers require 2 to 3,000 calorie. But if you are eating 6,000 calorie, where it will go? So your uric acid becomes high, your cholesterol become high, your blood sugar becomes high. That is what is the lifestyle. So either you eat less or you do exercise more. So you have to choose in between. So both things we are not doing. We are not finding time. And everybody says कि डॉक्टर साहब मैं तो इतना ज्यादा मुझे काम है कि कोई काम ही नहीं हो पाता. So how can you do that? You have to find time for yourself. You have time for WhatsApp. You have time for television. You should have time for exercise also.
Absolutely right, sir.
Exactly.
In fact, you know, we've written a article in this Indian Journal of Rheumatology. There's a review article by me on neuroimmunomodulation for as a treatment for rheumatoid arthritis, and they have done that. So we can control the impulses. The neurological impulses can actually bring down the inflammation. You know, so it's very important to understand that
जो हम लोग भाई बड़ा साइंस है, ये बड़ा सिंपल है. जब हम लोग खुश रहते हैं तो हमको कभी aches and pains महसूस नहीं होता. So that is how it is.
Yes.
If you like a person, you meet him, you feel happy, your aches and pains goes away. So there is something happening in the body. You may call it neurotransmitter, you can call it you can call any hormone, serotonin, this, that. But we know it that if you're happy, so positive thinking has to be there. Of course, with the physical exercise and everything, a physical body is also very important.
Yeah, I think
That is
positive
really-
outlook.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think
I
see,
would like to ask.
we feel that, you know, most of the people in our society, the way we are brought up, you know, we don't always have a positive outlook towards life. We always have a pessimism. We run towards miracles. We don't want to face the reality. I think that's a problem deeply built in our culture. You know, the moment somebody tells you of diabetes, you just want to run away to some person who can give a miraculous cure for it. We don't understand that we should handle it head on.
एक
And
चीज
that's
और
what,
मैं ऐड करना चाहता हूं, beside exercise, yoga, because science does not stop there. The science, and there is nothing like Indian physics or American physics. Physics is same, chemistry is same, so is the medicine is also same. So if you have some issue, then you must go to a person who knows about the thing. If I have diabetes, I will go to an expert who knows about diabetes. So if you go to a correct doctor, so it is like this, he understands the situation. It is like आपकी कार खराब हो जाती है, so you go to a correct doctor. The washing car does not sort out your problem. You have to find out what is the cause. So if I have a joint pain, I must find out the cause. I still remember there was a person, look, I was working in referral and research hospital. A lot of ministry people used to come there. It's not that I was a great doctor, but since all people come there, so this patient used to have a lot of aches and pains, and he was working with the home minister, and I lost my car, so I took his help. So he said, डॉक्टर साहब आपकी मैंने कार, मैंने आपको ढुलवा दिया, कार मिलती नहीं है दिल्ली में, मेरा जॉइंट पेन जाता नहीं है. So I tested everything was normal. One day he came in shorts, and he was like a hefty chap. He was a senior bureaucrat, and I could make out the diagnosis. He was standing like a child. So if you are standing like a child, hyperextension, that's called hypermobility syndrome. तो hypermobility means joint, आपके ईश्वर ने इतना मूव करने के लिए बनाया, but इनके joint ज्यादा मूव करते हैं. When it is called as hypermobility syndrome, the extreme is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where it gets go outside. So there has to be reason for everything. What I wanted to tell you, that if you have not diagnosed hypermobility syndrome, you will keep giving unnecessary medicine. So somebody will give a methotrexate, somebody. So you must diagnose. If you don't diagnose, you will unnecessarily overdiagnose the disease, because as we discussed, one blood test does not diagnose rheumatic condition. It is a clinician who has to take the history, and then he has to diagnose. If I had not seen that person in the shot, I would not have diagnosed, because he was hefty. I never thought he is a hypermobile. Hypermobile people are generally lanky, tall. So I could not diagnose, and I was young also that time. Gradually, I learned hypermobility is a very important cause for the So there are many causes, as we were discussing, many causes of arthritis, many cause of joint pain. The biggest cause is probably the depression. I can tell you, in society, a lot of women comes, a lot of men comes. If they are little low, they have a lot of aches and pains. Just don't write everything like newer drugs. Sit down with them, try to diagnose what is the cause of the joint pain. That's very important. Diabetes itself, thyroid, your two diseases, I can tell you that makes it bread and butter. In fact, I went to Bangalore once and I was just past my DM. So I stood that, look, this is called as hypothyroidism is the cause of the joint pains and all. So one endocrinologist got up and he said, no, I'm an endocrinologist. I have never seen a hypothyroidism presenting as a. Now I was young also and he was senior. So I had to reply in a more. So I said, sir, they come to me, they don't go to you. Because it was joint pain. Hypothyroidism is an important cause of the ligament inflammation. They comes with heel pain, they come with shoulder pain, periarthritis shoulder. In fact, if यदि shoulder जिसको frozen shoulder बोलते हैं हम लोग, पहले क्वेश्चन दो ही क्वेश्चन पूछता हूं मैं, डायबिटीज है क्या? नहीं सर, डायबिटीज तो नहीं है. थायराइड है क्या? हाँ सर, थायराइड है. So 50% patient comes in that. So that is the, so you have to diagnose the cause, then you can treat it.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Now, one question to each one of you, and I would request each one to answer in a few minutes. Every person is worried about food. Kya khaye? And we understand very well that food has great implication on our health and virtually on all diseases. So I would request you to say few words about the food which can be beneficial, which is good, and also include, well, there are a lot of supplements that people are taking. Literally everyone is taking calcium now. People are taking vitamin K, people are taking vitamin D, and people are taking lots of other things like fish oil and omega-3 fatty acids. So please include these aspects also in your comments. So I would like to start with Dr. Chaturvedi sir again.
I think
Diet के बारे में बताइए सर, क्या खाना है, क्या नहीं खाना?
Okay, I'll just take 2-3 things. No, basically दो चीजों का प्रिस्क्रिप्शन बहुत कॉमन होता है, हर कोई लिखता है, एक MBBS डॉक्टर भी और सुपर स्पेशलिस्ट भी. One is a calcium, another is vitamin D. So basically, no, you require calcium requirement in the women after 45 years of age is a reality. 45 साल के बाद, when menopause is there, you require calcium, and you roughly require calcium about 1 gram to 1.5 gram. कई लोग बोलते हैं, डॉक्टर साहब मैं तो एक गिलास दूध रोज पीता हूं. So if you really ask me, if you are taking 1500 milligram calcium, it is like a balti bhar doodh. You require a balti bhar doodh to have that calcium. So women after 45 years of age definitely require calcium. Children who are growing, they require calcium, and normal people also require calcium, but women after menopause require calcium. So that is number one. Now vitamin D has been done a lot of research on vitamin D. Probably people feel that vitamin D may be a hormone. So the research has not stopped, but vitamin D has emerged because it can work on immune system, it can work on muscles, it can work on nerves. That's why every prescription has a vitamin D. This vitamin D is different from vitamin D which is with the calcium. Calcium has a small vitamin D that is for absorption. This is a high dose vitamin D which is given for aches, pains, so many other issues. So these two things I want to discuss, and last, my colleagues has to discuss many other things about diet. I will discuss about alcohol. I was in army. I have seen the bad effects of alcohol. Unfortunately, alcohol is accepted in society. That's why लोग कहते हैं ना कि भाई वो मैं 2 wine पीता हूँ, डॉक्टर साहब, it is written healthy. Probably nothing is healthy. Alcohol is never a healthy thing. Definitely it's a social drink. We must drink as less as possible. Simple. If it's a social drink, it is acceptable. Probably it gives little euphoria, but it definitely has multiple side effects, not only on the liver, many other issues. You develop trembling, you develop cirrhosis, you develop. So probably alcohol has to be as little as possible. Probably it is that which has been accepted in the society. So I'll finish with this: calcium, vitamin D, and alcohol, and I'll request other speakers to take on the diet issue.
Sir, Dr. Raj sir.
Yeah, absolutely true what General Chaturvedi has said, and I'll add on to that. You see, it's very important to understand that calcium that we take, we have to calculate a daily intake of calcium. So I'll give you a rough idea. One glass of milk, 200 ml of milk, roughly gives you 200 to 300 mg of calcium. 1 cup of curd gives you 200 to 300 mg of calcium, and 1 ounce of cheese gives you 200 to 300 mg of calcium. And rest of your diet approximately gives you 200 mg of calcium. So you should first calculate what is your current intake. And if it is not sufficient, everybody tells that you must try to increase your dietary intake of calcium rather than taking a calcium tablet. If the dietary intake of calcium cannot be taken, say somebody is allergic to milk, in such a case, a calcium supplement has to be added. And please remember that the calcium tablet dose is very different from the elemental calcium inside it. So for example, a calcium tablet may contain 1000 milligram, may talk of 1000 milligram, but the calcium inside may be hardly 200 mg. So that you have to leave for the doctors to decide and be able to calculate rather than self-taking it. That is one of the problems with taking just calcium over the counter, is you will not know what is the correct dose that you have to take. And as he said, vitamin D is very, very important. It's a very now shown to be a hormone which has shown to prevent autoimmune disease, reduce autoimmune disease, and also helps in absorption of calcium. So vitamin D is very important. Coming to the other diets, I think in general, omega-3 has now been shown, and increasing evidence is showing that it's a good anti-inflammatory. So omega-3 supplements, again, from diet ideally, fish, flax seeds, always from diet. If you cannot take from diet, only then go for a supplement. That's the other thing. And carbohydrates in general are pro-inflammatory. So cut down on carbs. That's again a very important thing.
Thank you, sir. That was very interesting. And to you, Dr. Maninder.
Okay, thanks. Basically, I think everything's been covered. I'd just like to add two or more, three things. I think the Dr. Rath, as you said, calcium measure and then take, and then don't take excess. It's difficult to take excess in the diet actually, but still, if you take lots of supplements, that's not sometimes very good for you. And vitamin D has to be taken in moderation. Some people keep taking a weekly dose of 60,000 units of vitamin D for years, and I think that's really, really harmful. So I think you have to take it under supervision of a doctor rather than self-medicating with vitamin D. The other thing which I wanted to add, as Dr. Rath said again, is carbohydrate intake has to be low. It has been shown now this is one of the major factors affecting the inflammatory response in the body. So excess of carbs increases the inflammation in the body, and then that's one thing which is important to be reduced. The last thing which I would like to say is that some people, especially athletes and other stuff, you take protein supplements, which are like muscle building, muscle power building, and all those things. They have been shown that they're not very well regulated in India at all. So lots of fake products are there in the market. I would advise everybody of you to be very, very careful when buying these products and taking these products, especially young children. We as orthopedic surgeons see a lot of young gym going children coming up with the destruction of their hip joints because of taking protein supplements, and that's basically because of steroid content in these supplements. And the gym people are actually giving these supplements. So, and even for like elderly people who are taking supplements, take it from a good brand, which is from a sort of, and not from a, like a, you know, like a big powder, sort of 1 or 2 kg powder that you get. That is not good for you. So I think you have to take it again on the advice of your doctor rather than taking it from Amazon or anything online or some protein shop. It's best to take under care of your physician under supervision, because excess of protein can also damage your kidneys. So again, it has to be really, you have to really take care of a diet, and if you're taking anything extra supplement wise, you have to take it under care of your physician.
Okay, thank you so much. One question comes to mind is, because we are in winters, does these pains and inflammatory diseases increase during winters? Is the perception of pain increase, or the diseases themselves increase?
I think that, the perception of pain, I think in the sensory part of the nerves get, you know, increased maybe, but basically the winter is a natural onset of winters causes pain in the joint, as you said, but it doesn't have much inflammation. I think Dr. Rath and Dr. Ved can tell us about that better in terms of what the inflammation happens in the joints as such. But I think sports injuries wise, I think, or other osteoarthritis wise, I think it's just mainly the the swelling in the joints and the perception of pain because of the stiffness and the lubrication in the joint is maybe less at that time. Over to you, sorry.
Natural about winters, what happens with cold is that the circulation decreases. So when the circulation decreases, all the inflammatory material inside the joint, which is pent up, is not able to move out. So it's very logical that in the winters, these flares happen and the pains happen. It's very important. I think two things before I think we'll be running out of time, and I'm itching to talk about these two aspects as a rheumatologist only. Two very important messages for the people, and people must be having people in their family suffering from rheumatoid and other autoimmune diseases. But I just want to talk about two important drugs. One is, the drugs that we give for arthritis, and many times people come up and say, oh, Dr. Saab, these are very dangerous drugs. We don't want to take them. They are harmful. They are this and that. And I want to just explain to everybody that please try to understand, and what better time to understand than COVID, when you look at so many vaccines which are being made. But do you find a single vaccine being used? No. Until a vaccine has gone through rigorous phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials, and it is found to be safe, it is not used. So you know how allopathic drugs work. There is no allopathic drug which comes into the market unless and until it has been tested in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. So please remember, the medications that we give to you for your arthritis are not dangerous medications. They have been tested in various trials, and only when they have been found to be safe in majority that we give it. So this common myth, people run from their drugs. They suffer because they don't take medications. They don't understand they should be afraid of the disease and not the medications. The second important drug I would like to talk about is steroid, and General Chaturvedi showed a very important slide. The moment you talk about steroids, people say, oh, Dr. Saab, steroids, they are the most dangerous drug on earth. And I tell them, the person who discovered steroid got the Nobel Prize for it. How can it be a dangerous drug? I'll tell you what is the problem. A steroid is like a gun. It depends who wields that gun. In the hands of a terrorist, that gun can be devastating and life-taking. But the same gun in the hand of a policeman can be life-saving. So steroids, remember, are by themselves not a bad drug. It depends on who uses it. So if it is used by the right person, it saves lives. If it is used by the wrong person, it takes lives. So do not.
I think PD, you opened a very important aspect, because that is what even our doctors, I can tell you, if I do a survey today, pick up telephone and ask 100 people, doctors, they might say, Dr. Saab, the drug which you are using are dangerous. Even our own doctors. So
Yes.
it's a very, very important message that if it is used by a proper doctor who is used to it, look, if I'm using a steroid, why should I harm a person? I know what is a good steroid, what is a dose of a steroid. Half of the London uses a steroid. A low dose steroid is a very good drug. But what happens the moment somebody goes to other doctor, maybe to show one up, he says, "Arey Doctor Saab, इन्होंने वो दूसरे डॉक्टर ने तो आपको steroid दे दिया." No, that's very unscientific. If it has come from an educated person, so most of the drugs which is used by modern medicine, which we call it allopathy, has been tested. अरे इवन लिपस्टिक जब इंट्रोड्यूस होती है तो 5 साल पहले बंदरों को लगाते हैं लिपस्टिक, फिर आता है. That is how the Western world is. I can tell you, Western world that way is a very great. They are much honest in that way when they deal with a human being, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's not that कि 2 मिनट के अंदर आपने कोई product बना दिया and you start selling it like an immune enhancer. I don't think so. It is subject to scrutiny. Most of drugs are safe. It is when we talk about side effects are like, वो कहते हैं ना भाई मैं कार में बैठता हूं तो व्हाट इज अ साइड इफेक्ट, एक्सीडेंट हो सकता है, बट सब कारों का तो एक्सीडेंट नहीं होता, फिर तो कोई भी कार बिकेगी नहीं. सो ऑल मेडिसिन्स आर सेफ. वेरी रेयरली इट कैन बी साइड इफेक्ट, एंड दीज साइड इफेक्ट्स आर बिकॉज ऑफ जेनेटिक इश्यूज. मींस द पर्सन हैज सम प्रॉब्लम, नॉट द ड्रग. So if the side effects are there, we don't give. So basically the message is very clear that most of the modern medicine are safer. They have been tested adequately, more than adequately, and then they come in the market.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much. That was
But one more thing I'll say, because this is another burning question, and I'm not against the alternative medicine, please believe me. And I'll reiterate what General Chaturvedi said, is that if you have an Audi, if that Audi breaks down, you take it to a Audi servicing center. You don't take to a BMW servicing center. Similarly, If you are going to an alternative medicine and you have a disease like lupus, I tell my patients, please ask that person if he can speak to you 5 words about the disease, you can get it treated from him. So a person who doesn't know the disease should not be treating the disease. So if he knows, he can treat.
That was very
We have-
interesting, sir. That was a very interesting.
We have our own inadequacies. We know the science has inadequacy, but I always feel science is one. As I said in the beginning, there's nothing like Indian physics and American physics. Medicine remains the one. If there are some good things in any other pathy, that is welcome. If somebody says, I can treat this better, that they are welcome, absolutely.
This very important topic, which many questions have also come to us, and I would like to highlight again because a lot of people ask us this, sir, वो हमें joint replacement के लिए बोल रहे हैं तो हम कराएं कि ना कराएं. And another topic, important topic is issue is intra-articular injections. I understand the different types of injections. I think Dr. Maninder Shah Singh would be best placed to enlighten us a little bit about the joint replacement. When is it required? And about these injections.
Before Maninder comes, I'll tell you about joint injection. I was in Army Hospital. We used to conduct a OPD on Saturday, and I have given 2 lakhs joint injection. The world record is 40,000 Hollander series. That is called as Hollander series. I can tell you whether I use it or Rath use or Maninder use it, it is very safe. It is safe provided it is used by a person who's educated and he's using for a correct indication.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think absolutely right, sir. I think joint injections are safe and used widely, and they give good relief to people as long as they're used in proper indication. I would like to just highlight about the joint replacement, as Dr. Kesri said. I think joint replacements is the burning issue, whether we should be doing it and whether we should not be doing them. I would say just one thing: if a person asks me whether I should go for a joint replacement or not, I would say, it is depending on your symptoms. So a lot of people have lots of bad x-rays. Lots of farmers come to us with very, very bad arthritis, but they're walking a bit lopsided, but they're walking very fast and they don't have as much pain and they're able to do all their activities. Joint replacement is not for them, but they're a minority of the patients. So if you have arthritis and it is limiting your activity to the level where you're not able to do what you want to do in life. Basically, if you want to walk fast, if you want to play some minor sports, if you want to do that in life, your joint pain should not stop you. And if conservative measures such as exercises, injections are not working, so obviously a good trial has to be done with conservative measures like injections, exercises. And if they're not working, then joint replacement is a very, very safe option. Knee replacement has been shown to be, knee and hip replacement both actually have been shown to be one of the most productive interventions in or surgeries in all the gamut of surgery, not just orthopedic surgery, but whole of surgery. All the surgical procedures, knee and hip replacement have been shown to be one of the most productive and life-changing procedures. And they're very safe. So if the patient is having problems like night pain, difficulty getting up and out in a chair, getting up from a sitting position, or if you're having problems, you're not able to walk the amount that you want to, that is the time. And to get a joint replacement, if you delay too long, your heart will get weak, the muscles will get weak, because of the knee problem, the hip will start paining, the back will start paining, and the other disc problem will start happening because the posture is changing. And when that happens, knee replacement may not be as helpful as in the start, when the problem is actually just starting to affect your, mainly I would look at limb as the primary factor. Limb, if you're walking with limb, night pain, and walking distance. So walking distance less than 300-400 meters is one of the indications. So patient should be able to walk at least 2-3 kilometers, So anything less than that, I would try to say, better to get done early, because the life of the joint replacement is now more than 20-30 years on an average, and the life last your lifetime. The earlier models were sort of less, but with new technology, they almost last a lifetime for almost all patients. So I think it's one of the procedures to be done early rather than very late, leaving it too late. That's
Maninder, if I have to sell your joint replacement, I can tell you, I always tell patient, it is as simple, as complicated as cataract operation. जैसे पुराने जमाने में हमारे घरों में बहुत लोग अंधे होते थे क्योंकि कैटरेक्ट ऑपरेशन अवेलेबल नहीं था. Now it is exactly same. Unfortunately, our own doctors have defamed it. अरे वो क्यों करा लिया? If it is required, it is very much a time-tested operation, which is as successful as cataract surgery. It is 100% successful operation. So people who are listening to this talk must remember, if your indication for joint operation is correct, if your rheumatologist and orthopedic surgeon, if they feel you require a joint surgery itself is a very successful operation. It is almost like a cataract operation today, almost 100%. Yes, it is important whether you require surgery or not. That discussion has to be there.
Okay, thank you, sir. That was really very interesting. And Dr. Rath, would you like to add something to it? Because
I think I'll just talk about the joint injection part. I always feel, though I'm not an army person myself, but son of an army officer, I say that joint injections are like a surgical strike. You know, when there's a swelling in the joint, why would you take a pill to damage the body? You go for area, you go there, you know, just finish off the enemy, which is inflammation, control it there and there with minimal collateral damage to the surrounding area. And that is why a joint injection is always very appropriate when and where required. That is the most important question.
No, we have learned from pleural effusion. You keep tapping the pleural fluid from 100 years. You put a needle in the cerebrospinal space, CSF space. You put a needle in the pleural space. Same, you put a needle in the joint which is inflamed. Either you put a drug there or you aspirate it. Simple. There's nothing great science about it.
one thing I would like to touch upon here is one topic I think we've missed out, even though Dr. Chaturvedi had mentioned that in his slide and he's shown a very beautiful X-ray also, is osteoporosis. Because this is also a disease and a problem of elderly, and now it is getting more and more common because again of lifestyle and dietary practices. So I would like all of you to speak few words about osteoporosis. What is it, where it can affect more, and whom it can affect more, and how to prevent it.
देखिए ऑस्टियोपोरोसिस के बारे में एक लाइन में बोलूंगा सिर्फ कि बेसिकली ऑस्टियोपोरोसिस को हम इतना इंपॉर्टेंस देते क्यों हैं? बिकॉज इट्स बेसिकली वी वांट टू प्रिवेंट फ्रैक्चर. इट्स अ फ्रैक्चर प्रिवेंटिंग स्ट्रेटजीज. If you go to an orthopedic surgeon in a ward, in earlier there used to be those government wards. So if you feel about 60 to 70% people are either old people or women. So women are more prone to fractures and old people are more prone to fracture. So research was done why it is like this. So your hairs are becoming white, your bones are also become fragile. So whole research is started how to prevent it. So people started research in calcium metabolism, vitamin D metabolism, and how to detect it. There are a lot of old people, they don't have, they are good because they have been doing exercise. So that is how the research and the low dose parathyroid hormone. So that is how it has, and it goes to everywhere. It goes to endocrinologist, it goes to orthopedic surgeon. In extreme form, it goes to orthopedic surgeon because they'll end up with a fracture there. It comes to all over, generally asymptomatic. एक जमाने में हम लोग देखते थे ना, वो एक बुढ़िया जो झुकी हुई चलती थी, हम सोचते थे भाई ये क्या है? That is osteoporosis because its vertebra has collapsed and he has bent. कुब्बड़ जिसे बोलते हैं, वो रामचंद्र जी के जमाने से वो जो कुब्बड़, that mantra was कुब्बड़. So osteoporosis is a very old disease. So Rath wants to add something.
Yes, sir. So I think there's certain myths and facts about, as he said, as he clarified, is osteoporosis is basically a disease where the bone quality is decreased. You know, so when I explain my patients, I tell them it's like a wall. So when you have a wall, you have these rods inside the wall, you know, the beams inside the wall, and then you have the bricks, and then you have the cement. So calcium and vitamin D is like the cement on the wall. But in osteoporosis, these rods inside the wall, these beams, they unme junk lag jati jaise hum kehte hain, and they start to then get damaged and the bones crumble. So please remember that osteoporosis ka treatment sirf calcium or vitamin D nahi hai, and this is what I'm telling everybody. It's a different disease. Calcium and vitamin D is like a cement. If you keep cementing a wall which is weakened from inside, the wall will break one day. So we have now definitive medications for osteoporosis. And what is that? Why should we treat osteoporosis, as General Saab said? Because osteoporosis is a silent disease and it will lead to fractures. and those fractures are painful. They will limit the capacity, and in an elderly person, it can cause death. So please understand, osteoporosis needs to be screened by orthopedicians, rheumatologists, physicians, endocrinologists, just like you get screened for diabetes and hypertension after an age, after 50 in all males and after postmenopausal females. You must get screened for osteoporosis. Just taking calcium and vitamin D is good, basic, but not enough to prevent osteoporosis.
Rajesh, I'll take because time is probably people are calling me.
Yes,
So
yes.
Either we whatever you say in this, and I can leave in between, or we are closing. I can wait for 5 minutes.
This was the last question. We'll be closing after this because there's one topic we decided earlier, but we couldn't touch. So I thought we'll just bring it out, and you'll have all everyone will speak
We'll have
something,
more
and we'll
sessions
close
like
after.
this. We can join for more sessions.
Yes, yes, definitely. Dr. Maninda, would you say a few words about osteoporosis? How do you see it?
Just 5 words, sir. 2% of your time will prevent osteoporosis. Exercise
That is wonderful.
as Dr. Rath said, if it happens, then appropriate treatment will improve the situation. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Rath. Thank you so much, Dr. Chaturvedi. Thank you so much, Dr. Maninda Shah. It was a wonderful session. I would just conclude by repeating few words which you have already mentioned. That first of all, as Dr. Rath has mentioned, that not all joint pains are same. They can be different, and some joint pain diseases can even be life-threatening. So you have to differentiate between the red flag and the green flag ones. We've had a lot of discussion. One very important thing which has come up is happiness. Try to be happy. Try to decrease stress. Try to be physically active. As Dr. Maninda Shah has said, that 2%, just devoting 2% of your time to your daily practice for exercise, taking care of yourself, is going to do wonders with you. And I would like to add on to it, not just for your bone health, for your joint health, but for your whole body. For the it is going to bring happiness, because exercise brings happiness. It is going to decrease a lot of other diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. And Dr. Chaturvedi has so rightly mentioned in his presentations, he has brought about so many different aspects of the disease, about the rheumatological condition, osteoporosis, and about the quackery, which everyone has touched upon. So I think these are some important messages, that if we have a problem, we should go to the right doctor, take right treatment. We should not be afraid of taking treatment, because treatments for even rheumatoid arthritis or immunological diseases are available and they work wonders. And if it comes to a joint replacement, as Dr. Maninda Shah has mentioned, it should also be undertaken, because that improves the quality of life to a very great extent, and there's no harm in that. As Dr. Chaturvedi was mentioning, that he has given lakhs of injections, intra-articular or joint injections, and they are very helpful. So all medications given by the right doctors for the right conditions are always helpful. Please don't be afraid of it. Please don't live with pain. Live a happy life, and a long life, and a healthy life. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you again, Dr. Rath, Dr. Chaturvedi, and Dr. Maninda, and all the audience. And thank you, SOCHM, for organizing this webinar.
Thanks.
Thank you
so
again.
much. Thanks.
Very nicely summed up, Dr. Rajesh. I think kudos to you as well, sir, for chairing and moderating this session so well. I would really thank you for your efforts as well. You've been a great host. Thank you.
Very well
Thank you.
summarized, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar.